Welcome back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel in partnership with sharpbetting.co.uk, your home for all your betting tips and analysis, not only for boxing but for a number of sports such as football, horse racing, basketball. So if you're if you're a sports fan who likes to bet, please check out the great guys at sharpbetting.co.uk in the description below. It's me, Niall, here just giving a quick reaction to what we've seen from Las Vegas at the Fontainebleau Hotel as Brian Norman Jr. has made the first defense of a WBO welterweight world title, stopping Derek Quavas in the third round with an excellent, spiteful finish. Yeah, this was, as I say, Norman Jr.'s first defense. The youngest world champion in boxing, only 24 years old, and he certainly made a statement that he belongs amongst the kind of elite of the division. It was a good start from Cuevas. Cuevas is a really good fighter. Good footwork, solid jab. He's kind of an awkward stance in that he holds his hands down low and kind of out in front of him. And as I say, he had that solid jab to begin with, and he was countering well. One thing with Brian Norman Jr., with all the positive attributes he has, he's still very easily hit when he lets his own shots go. So when Derek Cuevas was countering him and punching with him, he did have success, and it looked like in the first round he was kind of buckling the legs a bit with a couple of shots that he landed of Brian Norman Jr. But Brian Norman Jr., what it came down to is being his hand speed was too quick. He's very quick hands, good footwork himself, but that power is a real problem. At welterweight, his 21st knockout victory now, and yeah, a huge puncher, spiteful puncher. Yeah, he hurt their Cuevas in round one or round two, I beg your pardon, sent him stumbling. Don't know how Cuevas stayed up, and then a couple of huge left hands in the third round, right at the end of the third round. The referee waved it off after Derek Quavas, to be honest, displayed the body language that he couldn't continue. He got up, he wasn't wobbly, but he wasn't following referee's orders when he was trying to administer the count. So, yeah, he wanted out, and it's a stoppage win for Brian Norman Jr. Against the very game, Derek Cuevas. And yeah, the question will be now, what's next for Brian Norman Jr.? I like Brian Norman Jr. I really do. I think he's fun to watch. As I say, he's got solid footwork, really fast hands and big power for welterweight. As I say, every time he landed on Derek Cuevas, he was hurting him. Kind of, he was buzzing him. He was kind of stiffening up the legs. And yeah, he's that power will be a problem for anybody. As I say, he's far from perfect. He is very easily hit still. It's been a kind of theme throughout his career now. His head movement is definitely lacking. So, he is open to be counted a lot and hurt. Cuevas did hurt him tonight. He's been dropped before by lesser fighters. But the thing with Brian Norman Jr. is he's only young. And I think if you're going to beat Brian Norman, the best chances now, while he is still rough around the edges like that, because I think with his age, and as he approaches his prime years, he's not near approaching his prime years yet. He's going to be a real problem for a lot of people. So, yeah, there's the options of unifications. Of course, there's a big welterweight unification coming up with Jaron Ennis, the IBF champion, and Imanta Stanionis, the WBA champion. It's a fascinating fight. Norman could be lined up for the winner of that. Who knows? There's Mario Barrios. I think if I had to pick, it's a real fascinating fight, that one with the WBC champion. I'd pick Norman to stop Mario Barrios. I really would. So I think he'd unify against Barrios. The Ennis Stanionis winner, I'm not so sure. I don't think he'd beat Jaron Ennis anyway. Stanionis would be a very kind of fun fight while it lasted. It'd be very kind of aggressive, physical matchup that. So whoever comes through that may be an option. But there's also other options now for a next defense. You look within the WBO rankings as he's the champion now. There's Roche. He's fought before Santillan. He produced a brilliant performance to beat Giovanni Santalan. There's the kind of unheralded, underrated Japanese fighter, Jin Sasaki, big puncher himself, so that'd be guaranteed fireworks, guaranteed KO, really. There's British interest with Echo Esman being in the top five, and of course he has a big fight himself coming up against Josh Taylor. So whoever comes through that. I can see fighting Brian Norman Jr. next, to be honest, for the world title. Josh Taylor's looking for another path back to a world title. If he is to beat Echo S-Man, which I think he will rather comfortably, so he'll shoot himself up into the top five. Um, yeah, I think that's a real potential matchup next, and Brian Norman Jr. against Josh Taylor would be fascinating, in my opinion. I think Josh Taylor will be a better fighter at 147. I think he'll be healthier, fitter, and if he can get back to near his best, he's a problem for absolutely any welterweight in the world, including Brian Norman Jr. He really is, but that's to be seen. If I had to pick a winner in that one, I know I'm getting a bit ahead of myself, but I'd pick Brian Norman Jr. to stop Josh Taylor late, possibly. I think we just have seen the best of Josh Taylor. He is past his best, but if he can get back to near his prime days, he's every chance of beating Brian Norman Jr. He really does. But yeah, the future is bright for Brian Norman. It really is. A lot of really fascinating potential matchups for him, as I mentioned there. And his age makes him a really, really exciting world champion. And yeah, just mouth-watering possibilities in a welterweight division that's really lacking. It's such a thinned out division outside of the champions. For a division that used to be the star division in boxing. It's it's not anymore. It's very thinned out. But let's see what happens. Brian Norman Jr. has stopped Derek Cuevas with a very impressive performance in the third round in Las Vegas to retain his WBO world title, the first defense of his title. So yeah, let us know what you think in the comments. How did you rate that performance? How do you rate Brian Norman Jr.? Do you think he can unify the division? Let us know. Get involved. Please like the YouTube video. We'd really appreciate it. Subscribe to the channel at ESBR Boxing. Follow us on all social media. And as I said, check out the lads at sharpbetting.co.uk down below. Until next time, take care.